Hello, everybody. I'm Jen Street with the Goddess Divine brand. Um, my brand is about bringing the archetypes of the divine feminine forward to balance our overtly masculine society that we've kind of been in for the past couple thousand years. So I'm here with Ken Lloyd, who is a unique, amazing individual, and he is a channel, he is a multi-dimensional being, all of the above and more. Welcome, Ken.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great.
So you're absolutely right. All of the more, right? Soul infusion walk-in. I've got, quite a few divine beings that occupy my field with me. Quite interesting thing. But we're going to get into it as we move through. So let's have some fun.
Yeah, yeah. So just to set everybody up for anybody who's not familiar with Ken, Ken is a channel and someone who is very tapped into his multidimensional nature. And I think what's often missing in some of these conversations is the human aspect. So, Ken, I would love for you to actually kind of do a quick summary of your experience as who you are now. And then I'd like to kind of jump into some human aspects of your human life and your journey.
I don't have much human in me, I swear. I struggle, right? So I'll catch everyone up, what I call the short story of my own, awakening. So my background is cybersecurity. I've built three companies or early stage startups, bootstrapped them all, acquired by Silicon Valley, things like that. It was the third company that I had created. In 2016, I ended up with a pituitary tumor, which in late 2018, once I did the surgery, it was biopsied as a cortisol tumor wrapped in a cortisol cyst. So it was all stress induced, right? In 2018, early 2018, the company was being sold, and I had a business partner that put me under a lot of stress, hence the tumor. But not only that, I was on massive energy drinks. I was on a lot of ADHD medicine prescribed. I I I wasn't sleeping a lot, and I was angry, really, really angry at what was happening with the acquisition and the company. And I found myself triggered one day, and I didn't know what that word triggered was till now, till recently. And the idea that I had no spirituality, I had no religion, I had no background with any of these things, any of this stuff. And yeah, I got triggered from my business partner, and I decided I was going to go lay down in bed. And as soon as I did, my stomach arched up in the air like an upside down letter U, right? Uh, Wired with electricity. I was frozen in place, just absolutely stretched out. And there's heat that was coming around my abdomen. I could feel something being pulled out. Now, I didn't know what was going on. It didn't last that long. It was only about 3 minutes or so. But what changed is the next day I woke up a little bit more peaceful. Like I didn't have that anger anymore, and I couldn't understand why. But there was something that pushed me to start Googling what took place, right? What was spirituality? What was an aura? What was a psychic? What was a healer? All of these things. And it was to the point where I became obsessed with it. Now, what had happened that day, and I didn't know it for about a year and a half later, was when we have a near-death experience, you hear about these reports of this tunnel opening, people going to the other side, floating above their body, having these epiphanies, these conversations, seeing the future of the world and having these instant healings. Well, none of that happened for me. What happened was the idea, and I say the idea, but the idea of the tunnel opening and one soul coming over to this side,
Mhm.
right? It's what they call a walk-in.
Yeah.
Now, there are a lot of walk-ins. There are walk-in exchanges where one soul leaves and the other one comes in. They slap each other's hands on the way by and say, "Hey, good luck." I'm kidding. It's really a little more complicated than that. But
Enjoy the mess.
enjoy what I left you. For me, I was what was called a soul braid. So it came over and kind of braided with me. And it was silent in the background. Like I didn't have conversation, didn't even know it was there for years. And it was the one that was changing my life. It was the one that said, turn the news off, get off the medicines, right? It was the one that says, Google this, Google that, go see a psychic, go see a QHHT, pat, go do all these things. I had no idea why I was doing these. Um, but then I met a woman named Sheila Seppi who was doing an interview about walk-ins, and she had wrote the book. I think it was called Cosmology of the Soul. It was about walk-ins. So I instantly reached out to her because about 2 weeks before that, someone says, "Did you know you're a walk-in?" I'm like, I don't even know what that is.
Right?
No idea. And this is how it works with the universe, right? They put somebody in your path to give you
Yeah,
that little bit of information that again starts you down the rabbit hole.
totally.
And so I set a session up with her. She says, "Yes, you're a soul braid." And she kind of explained to me what that was. I read her book. And a lot of the things in her book, while I wasn't doing them at the time, they all resonated with me. So there were like 15 stories in the back of the book about different walk-ins and how their life had showed up. And I'm like, my gosh, that sounds familiar. That sounds familiar.
Hmm.
So I'm a healer. I'm a psychic. I'm able to see energy. I'm able to talk to all consciousnesses of energy. I'm able to talk to everything. I'm able to see everything I need to be able to see. And I'm able to do this for thousands of people at once. I'm here for billions of people for my role.
Hmm.
Now, as I'm waking up to who I am, I ended up buying a book on healing, the energy healing, right? And I'm doing the little lessons in the book, and I'm like, oh, it's working. Now, it wasn't working like it is today, but it
Right.
was working to the point where people are like, yeah, I can feel that. I can feel that. Kind of like that gentle Reiki, right?
Mhm.
And I I wouldn't say I became obsessed, but I ended up taking a modality to see what was this all about. And I took the modality and I was doing everything in the modality. And I thought that was a little awkward, a little strange. Like, why am I able to do all this without complication? It was like boom, 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 boom. Now, for the record, I don't have a modality,
Right.
but I took one because I needed to understand what were these people talking about.
Hmm.
So along my journey, which is the time of this discussion, is just over 7 years. In April 1st, 2023, I had and I was already doing healing. I was doing events at this point, but April 1st, 2023, I had a woman do a session on me. And she says, 12 more just came in. Like, 12 more what? She says, 12 more just came in. Like, oh. So I then became, my messaging to the world was I was a soul braid with 13 walk-ins. Kind of unusual to have more than one to begin with. So I
Right.
had 13 of these soul braids. Now, I didn't know who they were.
Sure.
Didn't really, and I know now because every psychic needs a psychic, right? So I have people in my path who are able to tell me, Ken, this is happening to you because it's just kind of the way the world, well, the universe works. And it helps us as psychics, as healers, reach out to others so we're all connected. So
Right.
I have people who tell me what's going on. So April 1st, 2023, that happened. My healing, boom, went, got more intense, faster and faster. The things that I was doing evolved rapidly. And December 12th of the same year, 12/12/23, I got this little nudge that says, Ken, you need to go meditate. And I
Mhm.
thought that was odd because I didn't meditate. Like, I don't meditate. I am not the poster child for spiritual practices, right? In fact, I don't know much about spirituality. So I did this, jumped into the closet, and the moment I got in the closet, I was locked in position in the seated position, and I could feel the energy coming down the crown. And I mean, it was really intense. And I'm like, what's going on? And I get this little message that says, Ken, I'm a little busy right now. You'll just have to wait. And then he shut off my ability to ask questions. So I couldn't move, I couldn't itch, and I couldn't twitch, as I say, but I
Mhm.
also couldn't think. So it was 13 out of the 15 minutes, nothing as has happened. This was my higher self. My higher
Right.
self had moved into my body on 12/12, and then 3 weeks later, I was asking for a divorce. 17-year marriage, no issues, no complications, beautiful woman, treated me wonderful, all these things. But not only did I ask for, divorce, but I also sold my race cars, sold my classics, sold all my stuff, gave away what I didn't sell, and put my beautiful home up for sale. Again, I'm a cybersecurity entrepreneur. I did really well. I literally gave most of my stuff away. And by April, I was in Mexico. And I was in Mexico for almost 6 months. And in Mexico, in Yalapa, Mexico in April, I had nine more come in. So now I had 22 in my field. And then in July of 2024, so it's not even a year ago, I had to a Cambo and a Bufo. I got the message, go do Cambo and Bufo. Now my team wasn't really talking to me much. And listen, I know the struggle as we are doing our own work, right? We,
Right.
we get a little pissy. We're like, talk to me, give me some information. Well, I was no different, and I got pretty angry, right? I'm like, I'm in isolation in Mexico for almost 6 months. Let me have a conversation with me. Help me know
Right.
what's going on. None of that. But I got the message to go do Cambo and Bufo. And I did that.
Can you just briefly describe what those two are for people who haven't
Yeah.
heard of
So Cambo is a frog poison.
them?
Okay, and they burn these little holes with these little incense sticks on your arm, and they apply the frog poison. And you drink 2 gallons or 2 liters. I was in Mexico, so two
Yeah.
liters of water. And I did ask to make sure it was bottled water and not Mexican water. Yeah, it was an important distinction there.
Right.
And they did that, and you immediately purge. Okay,
Yes.
the idea is that it opens up the cells of the body so they rapidly detox.
Right.
Okay. Now, I'd already been at that point. I was pretty detoxed already, vegan, if you will. I had already done the heavy metal detoxes, and I've done all of it right at this point in my life. And then within 2 hours, I did the Bufo. I didn't know this, but I guess you're not supposed to normally do them in the same day.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I did. 2 hours later.
That's another plant medicine?
Yeah, that's not a plant. Yeah, it's another toad. It's toad. It's a toad poison. So Bufo is DMT.
Right.
And they call it the God molecule, and they say this is what's released from the pineal gland at birth and at death. And
Right.
when you do Bufo, it's called the ego death.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, I don't like this stuff. I don't like hallucinogens. I don't like anything like that. I'll stop at a roller coaster and that's it. So
Right.
I did this, and the whole experience is about a 25-minute journey.
Mhm.
And as you inhale, you immediately they laid me back, and it's like looking through a kaleidoscope. And when I was younger, I'm going to age myself. We had these little telescopes we look at, the kaleidoscope. Kaleidoscopes, is that how you say it?
Yes.
But it was incredibly bright. Like you wanted to wear sunglasses with your eyes closed. It was so bright. And for 10 minutes, I don't know where I was at. Like it was just going on for 10 minutes. And then I started to come through, and I could see my ego being walked out to the other side with two other souls. He was pretty pissed, right? He's looking back at me, looking at me like, what are you doing to me? So as it's happened and I'm coming through, I'm in this big tent, in Tulum, Mexico, and I see 22 souls in the tent with me. Now,
Mhm.
remember, I had 22 walk-ins,
Sure.
and the one to my right looked solid, like 3D solid. I open my eyes and he's still there, and I close them and he's still there. And he gave me a couple messages. He says, one, he says, your 24th chromosome's now online. I'm like, I don't even know what that is, right? And then he says, everything that you've experienced so far is the sniff of the aroma of what's about to come for you. Okay. Okay. So that was July 2024. And at that point, everything kind of settled down. Now, my healing was incredible. I was doing a lot of events, but no more real activities until this year. In January, I came to Colorado. I got this message, come out of Florida, come to Colorado, higher elevation. There's something about the elevation here. And as soon as I got into Colorado, I could just feel the energy in my body. Now, over the past 5 years, my body has felt electrified from the bone marrow out. And some days it's, if you could imagine sitting in a bathtub of steel wool, but static electricity.
Mm.
this is what it feels like in my body. And when I don't move, my face will go numb, and so will my body. Like when I'm laying in bed, I go numb, but it's delicious. Like it's not like you don't want to move. It feels so good, but it
Oh,
is
wow.
incredibly intense. It's like if you've had those activations or you've been in front of those healers, you get those tingles that comes
Yeah.
down. Imagine that being everywhere in your body, and it's
Yeah.
so strong you just start going numb, and it doesn't stop. Like I microdose melatonin to sleep because it's that intense in the body. So Colorado, I woke up early February, and this February just passed, and I wasn't able to animate my body.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't move. Now, it wasn't paralysis. Imagine the idea of a puppet
Mm-hmm.
whose strings were disconnected.
Ooh,
Okay. Now, not only that, but I had no emotion, a
interesting.
void of emotion, which is very, very different because there's always an emotion, even if you're just, I don't care who you are, even a
Right.
neutral, but it was void.
Right.
I woke up in the middle of my team removing my chakras, and they removed my energy fields and my holographic template, which is kind of how we're built.
Mhm.
Which meant the emotional field was also being removed, hence void of all emotions. It's an hour or two, and I was able to start regaining my motor functions back, right? So it's like the strings are being reattached. My body had been augmented to the point where my energy systems could no longer increase.
Hmm.
So they had to bring new ones in.
I was going to ask, did they bring something in?
They did. They upgraded my energy body.
Yeah.
So
Because you're just bringing in so much light at this point, your body couldn't handle it anymore.
So what I failed to mention is back in July during that Bufo Cambo, the 22 merged into my physical body when the ego stepped out and the
Right.
cells were open. That was the process. So I'm at that point I'm what's now called a soul infusion.
Mhm.
So there's not a soul braid. We occupy the same space. I am a collective, meaning one energy of all of these soul aspects in my energy field and in my physical body. Now I thought I was done. Right? Not done. Not done at all. I'm starting to feel a little funny after this energy body shift. I'm like, why did they do that? So, what do? We phone a friend. I'm like, hey, what's going on? And she says, you don't know? I says, no. She says, I can't tell you. She's like, they won't let me tell you. Because
Oh my
this
goodness.
woman is connected to my team. She's a bridge. So I don't need her, but I do need her. And
Understood.
I'm like,
Yeah.
it's gonna get so much better here in a moment. So I phoned my other friend, Miss Sheila Seppi, the one who wrote the book, who's
Right.
become my best friend after all this, right? And it turns out that her team, my team has assigned her team to me, and she's assigned to me from the human perspective to help me as a human understand what's happening.
Right.
Okay, so these are the two ladies that are in my life that help me understand. One connected to the team, the other one's more for the human aspect. So I call Sheila. I'm like, Sheila, what's going on? She's like, well, did you talk to so and so? I'm like, yeah. She's like, oh, so you know? I'm like, yeah.
Reverse psychology here.
She says, so you know about the great divine director? I said, who? She says, the great divine director. I said, oh, no, she didn't tell me about that. She says, yeah,
So now she had to spill the beans.
she did. She did. She says, the great divine director stepping into your physical body. Okay. And I don't know religion.
Yeah.
I got a message years ago that there's going to be something happening to me that was never written in the Bible. Okay. Now, when you get those messages, you're like, what did I drink last night?
Right.
You're like, come on, right? And so
Eat,
you
eat
just,
the dream, right?
yeah, feed the dream. There you go, right? So you just kind of like, whatever. I'm not going to tell anybody I got that message. I still need friends.
Yeah.
Well, the great divine director is the one that was never written in the Bible.
Yeah.
So if you Google him, you're going to find that he, and this is my words, the way I understand it is you've got the right hand of God, you got the left hand of God, but there's also a guy in the middle, and that's him. So he's the director. So when God says, let there be this happening, create this universe, create this whatever, the director is the one that makes that happen. He's my boss. And he's the one stepping into my physical body. So in order for him to do that, you can imagine his frequency is really, really high. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's doing, and by the way, just so your audience recognizes, these are soul aspects.
Right.
It's not the whole, you literally couldn't put that into a physical form anyways. This whole aspect, in order for this to happen, they have to raise the cellular structure and my energetic fields to get me up high enough so he can even reach down low enough to grab me and pull me up. And
Right.
as we're doing this interview, he's about a week away from being a complete integration. So the great divine director is as he's, I woke up the other morning, like 2, 3 weeks ago. He says, it was like 3 a.m. He's like, hey, I'm like, what? Because my team talks to me now, right? Like full on conversations. He's like, I'm here. I'm like, are you who I think you are? He's like, yeah. I said, it's 3 a.m. Can we talk in the morning?
I do that to my higher self all the time.
He says, I'm just letting you know I'm moving your furniture around to make room for my shit.
I love that. That's
Great
so
humor. And what he literally meant is he's continuing
yeah,
to shift my energetic fields,
yeah.
right? So he can come in. And it's been rough.
Even your biology, I would imagine, because
Yeah.
it's all connected.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, really rough with what I've been going through in the physical form just in the past few weeks, right? Um, and when you're doing this, as these energies are coming in, they hit your emotional field.
Yeah,
So I'll wake up one morning feeling like I'm clinically depressed.
yeah.
And as these shifts happen, they stop talking to you. There's just this weird thing where they go quiet for 2, 3, 4, well, not quite 4 weeks, but 2 or 3 weeks. And you're like, literally, where are you? We
Right,
literally having moment to moment conversations. And now you guys are gone. And now I'm feeling clinically depressed. And then I wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so much better. It's like, hey, how are you? I'm like, where were you? So this is my life, right?
right.
But the great divine director is now to the point where he verbally channels. I'll walk around the house, we're just channeling, right?
Yeah,
Or I'm doing the mental back and forth, and he has a different. It's interesting. His different personality when we're doing the mental conversations. It's more humorous, but when he shows up in the verbal tone, it's a little deeper, and it's going to continue to do that because I've asked him to change his frequency when he's talking to the world, so that people know when it's Ken, people know when it's him,
yeah.
because there is no delay. I don't drop in.
Right, right. It's
You,
just instantaneous.
yep, yep. So my team is continues to shift and change because I'm now I am the collective, right?
Right.
It continues to shift and change, but it's full of divine beings. It's full of ascended masters, archangels, and Christed ETs, right? And I apparently have 4 oversouls, which I don't quite understand yet.
Yeah,
But yeah, so this is my configuration.
I
And,
love
and I'm here literally to change the world, billions and billions of people.
that's
There you
amazing.
go. There's the long story
Good.
short.
I love that. So I actually do come from a religious background, and I
Oh,
and a lot of my audience is former Christians or they are still Christians and that sort of a thing. And so I would like to bring in some context for what you just brought
please
forward,
do. Yeah.
that specific audience. So I actually started my kind of deconstruction journey of my spiritual path in 2016. Um, like a dark night of the soul year. I thought it would be a 3 month period, and it ended up being a whole year. Um, 2019 is when I started to have my feminine awakening. And that was really when because of my journey through Christianity and my connection to what we call God, was this very masculine, externalized, even like angry, punishing type of figure. Um, I was raised in the Southern Baptist tradition. You know, there's a lot of hellfire and brimstone being preached in that. And my own experiences in my early life with father figures in my life that were extremely unhealthy for me just kind of reinforced, oh, that's just the way it was. And so I think a lot of Christians, whether it's conscious or not, they have this dichotomy with source, with God, that is only really connected to the masculine face of God, if you will, and very disconnected from any goddess iconography or archetypes or a feminine understanding of the divine feminine. So 2019, 2020, and then 2021, I stepped into the world of the Sophia Code, and that is a divine feminine codex. It's really a modern day spiritual text from Divine Mother to humanity. So it's a love letter, but then it's also introducing various archetypes, Christ ascended masters that you're speaking of, that you are probably connected to some of these, like Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary and Kuan Yin and Isis and Hathor and the White
All
Buffalo
part
Woman.
of the collective, my collective.
Right,
The
right.
yeah.
They are in service to humanity
Mhm.
as a united force. And in this world, they're known as the Sophia Dragon tribe, but yet they serve on many councils of light throughout the cosmos. That's part of their service. And so when I started having that experience with a mother god, it really kind of broke me open. And because I had been so disconnected from my own internal feminine, I had moved into so much of my masculine energy as like a coping mechanism and a survival tactic for my life, that I was very disconnected. And so I was very imbalanced within myself. And so the journey that you're talking about is a very human journey. And that's really what I want my audience to kind of grab hold of, is that what we've been told is God, is spirituality, whatever our lineage is, it's only a fraction of not only what exists, but all paths, all spiritual seeking, even the non seeking, even the atheist, even the ones who deny overtly, all of these paths are leading to the coming home to the truth of who we are. And I feel very much that your journey is a journey of coming home to an awareness that you were disconnected from for most of your life.
Yeah, so it's actually bigger now. Hold on a second. Kasi it's not just a journey of him coming home. It's a journey of humanity stepping back into the humanity timelines. We simply want to say that the idea of the human history that it's known as now is actually augmented and shifted from the way it should have been from the beginning. We are now moving into what you call the ascension of the human. We will simply say, you could say it's the realigning of the human timeline where it should have been. We are moving back into this, and this is why we're here through him at this time.
Hmm. I love that. I'd love to, if you want to, and we can edit this part out if you don't
Yeah.
want to share this publicly, but I would love to hear. I felt in another interview that I watched you in,
Mm.
you barely mentioned some of your early life trauma and some of your challenges that kind of shaped who Ken the human was in the first part of your life.
Oh, yeah.
And I would love to know a little bit more about that and about how that journey through, like, what is your perspective now, kind of those experiences
I
and
don't
of
think about it.
evolving
So,
that.
so when I had the event that I was talking about, that swirling in my stomach was them pulling all the trauma out of my body and my life, right? All that trauma. And I still had trauma I needed to deal with the business partner and things. So I don't view life through the lens of trauma. I don't view my journey. I had a little bit of work to do, I guess, but not like everyone else where they're really spending, moment after moment trying to figure out why do I feel like this? What do I got to do to work on that? And they've done all of this for me. I've kind of have a little bit of a cheat code. But prior to that, yes, I had a birth defect, and this birth defect kept me from really socializing or being involved with most people, right? So it created an extreme introvert in me. Now, to the point where even though I've created three companies, I never wanted to talk to anybody, period. I wouldn't want to answer emails from customers afraid that I would tell them something wrong, even though I'm the guy that created the technology. I never wanted anything to do with anybody. So very, very, what's the word, pacifist? And I was designed so I just shut the world out. I wasn't angry with the world. I just didn't care about anything going on in the world. And which actually played into once my event happened and the news got turned off from my team, right? That was pretty easy, right? Stop listening to the music because I could hear the programming in the words, right? So I went from this extreme introvert to an extrovert almost overnight, meaning when it's time for me to do my job, I can do it in front of 1,000 people with zero stage fright, no anxiety, no fear, no nothing. And the first time that happened was in Sarasota. I had 120 people for my very first event, right? I should have been shaking in my boots or whatever else, right? And I'm like, oh my God, nothing, nothing, no fear. It was incredible to witness how I had changed without even trying to. But yeah, my life wasn't easy. We grew up poor. We grew up, my father was military. We moved every year, we moved someplace. I think by the time I was in 10th grade, I had moved 18 places or something, right? It was ridiculous. And then, mother was a shop rat at the GM plant in Flint, Michigan, right? And that was not healthy for anybody. So
Right.
yeah, yeah, no. I mean, my life was not easy, not easy, but I kept myself and kind of did my thing and now look at me, right?
I just think it's great to, I think humans in general, even in the spiritual community, separate from the awareness of multidimensionality in the religious community, even, there's this tendency of creating hierarchy
Mm,
to God and creating hierarchy to spiritual platitudes and such. And I feel like it's so helpful and important in these type of conversations to bring forward more of an understanding of the the truth about hierarchy. It, from my perspective, is the only hierarchy that really exists is the ladder of ascension, and that really just has to do with where each individual soul is at in their soul's progression and journey.
hmm.
Aside from that, there's no hierarchy of people who are more favored by God or
Oh yeah,
people who
no.
are more blessed by God or any of that stuff. And it's so rife in the spiritual community, even on subtle levels. And so by bringing in some of your human experience and your human journey and the some of the challenges that you navigated, I feel like that's a bridge to reaching people who aren't where you're at yet in their spiritual journey.
Yep. I can tell you that when I do my sessions, right? So when I drop in, I see everything. I see the souls, right? And I talk to the souls. I see energy, I talk to energy. Not a single one is treated differently. Never. Not even the entities, the darkness, right?
Right.
I can see and talk to them as well.
Let's talk about that. My
Are not
favorite
treated any differently. I
conversation.
mean, they're removed, but when I'm in,
Yeah.
it's that same neutral, solid place of love. I'm here to heal you. And, Mr. Entity, I'm going to remove you so you can go back to wherever you go. There's no punishment for what you did. You just no longer need to be here. I don't see any difference with anything.
Yeah. So I'd love to share my take on that, and then
Sure.
get the collective input on this.
Hmm.
See where I'm at. I'm having an increasing dance and relationship with my understanding of what darkness is
Hmm.
and what evil is and what separation is. And it's a structure. It's part of the structure of life, which we call a matrix. And the term matrix has a negative connotation because it's been tampered with, but really matrices are really just constructs of collective consciousness that are in certain agreements together.
Right.
And what I have understood coming from a religious background that taught me to always seek the light and to avoid, deny, and separate myself from any type of darkness or any type of vice or any type of thing that's perceived in a negative
That's
way.
really denying the human experience, but
It
okay.
is. It is a demonization of the humanity that we
Mhm.
are. And so what I've actually learned through the system of the gene keys is we have a spiritual blueprint, and within each key of our spiritual blueprint rests a trinity of frequencies. There's a lower frequency called the shadow, and a mid-range frequency called the gift, and a higher frequency called the siddhic state or the divine state.
Mhm.
And these exist in their expressions to give us the illusion of growth, of evolutionary journey, of moving through space and time
Mhm.
to be able to have various experiences. Does that feel?
So the idea of darkness is nothing more than an experience. We want to say that the darkness that we have when we're born, because we do come in with darkness at
Yes.
times, is simply left over from the previous life, the contracts, the things that you've already put in place to have the experience here. Now, you can have the experience of darkness the entire time you're here, or you can go through the experience of having it removed. You can call it the shadow work, or you can call it just having somebody else do it for you. There's nothing wrong with the darkness. There is no hell. There is no demon. It is literally just another piece of energy there to provide you an experience, which, when you're looking through the human eyes, sucks.
Yes.
Period. But when you're looking at it from the soul's evolution, you're like, oh, I did that. Check the box. Move on. No different than you have in a lifetime when you're poor, a lifetime when you're full of abundance. You're going to have a lifetime when you're super religious and happy, 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 or you're dark to dark, dark, doing nasty magic. And we say that in a very fun, loving way. We just want to understand that there is no wrong in any of it. Period.
Yes. I love that so much. That is definitely a journey that I've been on of expanding into that awareness for myself. Let's see what else wants to come in. I found it curious when we first started interacting with
Mhm.
one another that you didn't know who a lot of your collective was and you didn't have these personal relationships, when I feel like I'm on the opposite extreme of that, where I have these very, in fact, I would say my, and this is probably imbalanced, I'll admit, my relationship with my ascended master friends and my angelic guides,
Mhm.
I feel even more connected to them mentally, emotionally,
Oh,
spiritually than I do with most people on the planet. And so um, I'm curious, just Ken, the human,
yeah.
what's your perspective on
I
the
struggled.
development of the relationship with these beings?
I have struggled, and I swear I have a book next to me of curse words that I've used. Like I've used the whole thing. Talk to me. Who are you? What's going on? How come that person can see? And so I'm what's called a hollow bone. Okay, and I think it's also called like a rainbow hollow bone or something like that. There's another term for it. But what this means is
You're
that
an empty chalice. You're a chalice.
yeah, I am designed so that one. they're able to operate through a human vessel without the human interfering or interrupting or intercepting what's being delivered to somebody.
Yeah.
Okay. I have thousands and thousands of light languages and beings that are able to come through as I'm delivering the magic that I do. Magic's just a fun word, folks. So if I,
Would you say that magic is really just, I'm going to use some Bible language here, is the power of the Holy Spirit moving throughout life to create?
no, I think magic has a boxed term. Fairy
Okay.
magic, dark magic, white magic. I think magic's just a word, right? So I don't want to get hung up on it, but magic's just something that we see an illusion we can't put our hands on necessarily. So I don't want to get wrapped up on that. But my body to the last of my awareness, and I'll say these numbers, but don't get caught up in these numbers because it
Sure.
shifts and changes. I have 16 soul aspects in me that are ascended masters. I
Mhm.
have 10 Christed ETs that are their own ascended masters, but
Right.
in the ET realms, they have they're Christed ETs, right?
And
And
when we say ET, we're just talking about other star beings here that are not
that
human,
went through their own ascension journey.
evolutionary process on
Yeah,
other
and
planets.
and these are
Yes.
the ones full of crested light.
Right.
And then I have 15 archangels in my field. I don't talk to them. If I did, I would go nuts. I would think I was one of them. Because
Right.
if you've had the experience, you've listened to the audios, you know what I can do, and please understand it's my team, right?
Right.
And when you see these miracles happen in seconds with everyone, if I was to say, "Oh, I'm that ascended master," boom, we have a problem now.
Right.
We have a huge problem because I wouldn't be able to show up to the world as the guy next door. And
Right.
that's what spirit wants right now.
Yes.
They want the guy next door who has no preconceived understanding of religion or really spirituality to show
Right.
up and to do what I call the heavy lifting. I'm here for billions of people and I
Yeah.
can do that. So I couldn't do it if I was to stand up on that podium with,
And think you're Yeshua,
yeah, right. And yeah,
which many people do, unfortunately.
and he's one of my soul aspects. It doesn't really matter,
Right.
right? Now, what does matter is the great divine director. Okay. And the reason that matters, and the only reason I use that name is one, he tells me I need to, but more importantly, because he's going to come in and start channeling to the world. Okay. It's not just the work doing it, but he's going to start coming in channeling to the world while he's healing the audience to let them know it's time for ascension. Game's
Yeah.
over.
Yes.
Not game over, but this just
No, but
we're going to the
the
next level of the game,
absolutely.
whatever this is.
Absolutely.
But it has to happen through his words.
Yes.
So he's here. And my understanding is they haven't had this body and they haven't had I call it my configuration. This configuration of this energy
Sure.
hasn't been around since Atlantis.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
literally here to show the human what the human's going to evolve to in a
Yeah.
physical form. Even though I'm sitting here with this nice shirt on. But you'll see soon enough how this shifts and changes because until the human can see it with their eyes or to feel it in their body, there's resistance. So he's here. They've done this shift so that when you do have your experience and you hear the voice and you get those messages, it's undeniable that changes happening now.
Yes. And I think we're in a time and a season and the design is such now is the time when we're not having a one Buddha or a one Christ
Right.
come to the planet and be the one savior for everyone.
Oh,
We all are that
mhm.
outside of space and time. We are all of our own journey of ascension. And now is the time when we are embodying fully our cleared, healed, healthy, balanced human aspect
Mhm.
and the aspects of our divinity that are wanting to come forward to support us uniquely. And I think that is as much of an important message as any, like you. And again, I work with various systems. I work with the Gene Key system. It's just a system for self knowing. And my life's work is the 19th Gene Key, which is called the future human. And so I very much have this orientation of living future forecasting, seeing, and even living in that uncomfortable space of being like a pioneer or a forerunner in certain areas, bringing forward certain types of information that's not here yet, and living in the kind of the uncomfortable tension of the mass isn't there yet, but we're all moving into our own self-empowerment and embodiment of our divine nature. And that is what people really need to hear and understand, who are seeking out the healing from you.
Well, it's so think of it like this. The humans are going to evolve regardless. Okay? But spirits basically said, okay, we're going to accelerate that. So you're absolutely correct in the idea there is no second coming. Every single person is the second coming. But what I'm here to do, and there are 10 others on the planet like me, they're here to say, okay, we're going to give you a little octane for that fuel.
Right.
Right? We're gonna plug you into the dryer socket. Right? We're going to rapidly evolve the divine being inside of you.
Yeah.
So you,
The human
all of
Tesla
you,
coils on the planet.
yeah, so all of you can move up through the ascension. And the universe is basically saying, first of all, one person's not going to do it,
Right.
right? Because they wouldn't put all of their eggs in one basket,
Right.
period, right?
Yes. Not
But
at this stage of the game.
not at this stage of the game. And what's happening here is there's so much, I'm going to call it chaos. And don't look at that word in a negative word. Think of chaos meaning just disruptions and energies. All right. And we can say this was from the media, from the politics, from your local neighborhood HOA. It doesn't matter, right? Chaos in the air. It's hard for us to reach inside to find that divinity peace inside of us so we can step up into our own light. So there are really three things that I'm here to do, at least at this moment. There's a bunch more. We'll talk about that another day, another time.
Yeah.
But one, I'm here to remove the sandbags off your own hot air balloon.
Yes.
When to ascend, we got to get rid of the crap. And the crap is the disease, the illnesses, the emotional baggage, the history, the idea that the ancestors are responsible for everything in my life.
Yeah.
Just get rid of all of that. And I mean to heal the ancestors, heal the
Absolutely.
body, right? We're going to do that. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to expand your energy to move you into the frequency of what everyone labels 5D. Okay. I think it's an overused term, but it's a term we
Sure.
understand.
Everybody recognizes
Everyone
that.
recognizes that. So we're going to raise the frequency. And then once that's done, then we're bringing in your codes. And these codes activate who you are
Yeah. They're
individually.
yours. They already belong to
They
you.
do.
Just like a postman, you're a delivery
I'm the
messenger.
guy with the key to unlock those inside of you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So there's kind of three phases, right? And then most of these folks who are unlocked will then go unlock others.
Yes.
So,
That's
so
our work.
no one has to show up and say, Ken's busy for 10 more years. I can't show up. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have that. That's so good. What would be one message you would like to share with people who are still on the other side of where you're at, where they are experiencing some of the sandbags and some of the aspects of trauma that they have
Hmm.
wrestled with for so long and been with? Like, what message of hope, or what message of awareness could you give someone in that position?
They don't have to be in that position is the message. They choose to be in that position at this time. We simply want to say the tools, the people, the availability to remove that's available now, period. You just need to step into the desire to move into who you are. And we want to step it back a second to, well, I can't step into that new relationship. Yes, you can, but you got to have to change a lot to do it.
Yeah.
right? And it's no fun. He'll tell you it's no fun. He had a lot of trauma while he has a message for most people of another message here is let life flow through you, not at you. Right. So even though he had to go through his divorce and do his thing, he didn't hold that trauma. He allowed it to flow through him and not create even more chaos. We're
Yeah.
simply saying if you really want to step into your authenticity of who you are, you have to deal with those things that are holding you back. As you do your own inner work, you rise. And as you rise, you meet other people at those same levels who continue to pull you up. But you're going to lose those things that are not in your best interest at this time.
Yeah.
Everything's available now, and it can happen immediately if you so choose.
Yes. And I just think, and I can only speak from my own journey, there is a step in that process where as you are taking inventory and being real with yourself of the things that are ready to be let go of, and you do cultivate that desire and you have a strong desire to change, and yet you still feel certain things holding you back, I think that's simply part of the development of compassion within us, and also part of the soul saying, do you really want this? Are
Yeah.
you sure you really want this? Are
Mhm.
you really committed to letting go of everything that's not serving you? And that just having that faith and that hope and that orientation to life, that is an orientation where you understand that life is always serving you. Life is
It is.
always is in your highest interest,
Mhm.
even some of the most difficult and awful things that happen to you. It is a type of service. It is serving you in some way. And there's a soul growth in that for you to relax into the way that you would relax into like a muscle cramp or resistance training. Like the more you can relax into it, the more you can allow that flow that you're talking about to really come in and really have its way in your life, and for you to not develop resistance towards what is.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's kind of I like to say it's either like a car driving at night with no headlights, right? You just don't know how it's going to show up when you start actually doing the manifestation. And I really don't like the word manifestation personally, but when
Sure,
you start, yeah,
co-creation.
when you start creating your own reality, you're not supposed to know how it shows up because our ability to dream or to believe or desire that I'm making it up, this handsome person or this beautiful woman, or I need to have this specific type of car in color red only, let it go. Because the universe is going to give you something even better than you can imagine once you drop it all. And it is hard. It
So
is.
what would you say our desire nature? I personally think we aren't really, like some spiritual paths talk about purging us of the desire nature. I see it a little differently, more as a refinement of the desire nature. The desire nature is kind of like the higher self leading us forward, like a dangling carrot, for a lack of better term. That is, it's a creative mechanism that's bringing us forward in our life, but our attachment to what we desire is where we get hung up
It
and is
is.
where the hiccups happen. And so fully surrendering to our desired nature, but creating that healthy detachment from how it needs to show up, how it needs to look, or even if it shows up at all, because some dreams are not meant to manifest in the physical. Those are the things that are calling forward the most pristine and higher version of you, and that was the purpose
Mhm.
of that desire.
You know, I gave up everything to do this, and I did it without concern, which is really odd, right? And I went a year without a vehicle while I was in Mexico and all of these things. And it came time for me to buy another one. I'm like, man, what am I going to get? And I let spirit kind of pick it out for me. And I'm like, okay, they want me to have something where I can show up sophisticated, right? And show up in the dirt, like off-road camping, right? I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
well, I'm looking around and I found one, right? I found one. I had to have a V8 because I'm that guy, right? And
Hey, I like power in my vehicle
yeah,
also.
and I found one, and it was 2 hours away at the dealership. So I go, I check it out. I'm like, I do want it, but I still need a few more days. Had been there for 45 days. They're like, no one wants this. It's a V8. We're here, and no one needs this in Florida. It's going to be here for a while. I'm like, okay, no worries. So 6 days later, I'm ready to pull the trigger. Call the lady up at the dealership, and I'm like, okay, is it there? She's like, yeah, come get it. I said, you're holding it for me. She says, yeah. So 10 miles from the dealership, I get a text message from her. We just sold it.
Gosh.
And now I'd already had my financing in place.
That was absolutely a test.
It really was because I had my
Yeah.
financing in place. I didn't want to pay. It was a 2-year-old vehicle. I didn't want to pay the depreciation. The story, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm listening to my inner self, making sure I'm like, okay, I think this is what you guys want, whatever. And so I had a choice. I could have got pissy,
Oh
right?
yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm just gonna continue to the dealership. So I went to the dealership, and I knew they didn't have anything else in the lot like the one I wanted, right? And I was upset, but I wasn't upset. I'm like, okay, well, let's go ahead and figure this out. I need a vehicle. So, 15, 20 minutes later, half hour later, whatever it was, my gosh, time flies when the dealership. They're like, well, let's take you to the back lot. That's dangerous when they say that. I'm like, oh shit, okay, the back lot. And there was a vehicle there. It was brand new. Right? And it was the sophisticated vehicle I wanted with whatever. And it was gray. And, but it was a lot of money. More money than I had already planned on spend, like a lot more money than I had planned on spending. And we went back to do the finance, and it was all screwed up, and it was just a mess. And I actually got angry for 4 or 5 minutes. So the lady, the guy at the finance comes out, and he says, "I can get you the loan for 10%." And I looked at him, and I'm like, "Who do you think I am? Did you check my credit?" I I was livid. Like,
Oh yeah.
I was livid. I mean, I use very other words. But then I calmed down. I'm like, do it. Let's just do it. So, long story short, I'll fast forward a little bit. The color of the vehicle was called Carpathian Gray. Okay. And I find myself, and Carpathian translates to Rocky Mountains, which is exactly what I'm looking out my window right now. I'm in the Rocky Mountains. Okay.
Wow.
Second of all, it's a Defender. My team named the vehicle Athena, who's what? A Defender.
Yeah.
So I went to my people and I said, hey, did my team pick that out? They said, absolutely. This is the vehicle that they wanted. Now, when I think about the payments, when I think about those type of things, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it's so much more than I thought I was ever going to do.
Yeah.
No, none of it. The universe knew what they wanted for me, for them as well, right?
Yeah.
And this is the idea of surrender. The
Yes.
universe is going to give you something bigger, better, nicer than you can dream or allow yourself to have.
Yeah.
That's the lesson of that particular message. And I learned it, and I got to tell you, I'm like, hi, Athena, every morning. So yeah.
Ah, that's a beautiful place to end.
Mhm.
I love that. I think that's going to resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah, let the universe take control. And even if you find yourself entering into your dark night of the soul because you've decided you no longer want that relationship, right? Or that job, or whatever these things are, it's okay. It's the release.
Yeah.
Getting rid of all those sandbags doesn't mean you're going to be happy the next day. It means you're allowing the new to come in.
Yeah. You got to feel it to heal it.
Yeah, well, I take a lot of that feeling away when I do my sessions. Just kind of read
Yeah.
it, rip it out. You don't have to do that. Like you don't. The old processes are going away.
Yeah. I think that is a that on at a certain level of self healing and self growth, that is a truism, and I think we're evolving beyond that. There's a
We're
lot of
exponentially accelerating in our human development, and the old methods are too slow, period. And that's why someone like me is going to come in, like the heavy machinery, and I'm going to pull all that trauma out of your heart in a matter of moments. Now, there might be some a little bit more, but they're coming out. We're going to
yeah.
do all your ancestors associated with whatever they are now. You don't have to wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. You don't, the stories are done. Who cares what you did in the past life if I hurt you? Let's be over with it. So this is how the team does this.
Yes. Would you like to end with a little demonstration of your light language? What should we choose as an
Well,
intention?
you get to choose the intention.
Let's make the intention a general, overall clearing of some of the sandbags, the emotional,
That's so easy.
mental. I know, but
Okay,
I
I got
think,
it.
all right, and people connecting, being able to connect and hear the voices of their higher self,
Okay,
their divine team.
sure.
Awesome.
Here we go. Shreya karaoke nikiliri ani nskiniet kani aroma pari kilere to korotigniet kama bi ani skiniet ka Shiliri toria kare going to the root. Mobiliari skidiri ani aloria shukuri ani ati shiliri lirga bari ani bari ani skidia to torica dirika morra to karati shukuduri ani ti di skare kaniet kar kori un kini kini kampor koni amari area oria kori ku shukuduri ani kararo tore notorio no kuno skidiri kari area kini shiliri tari mi ni nika ta korea kapa payeti skidika nika doria mapario kapa pishutu. Ay lady ara ya karo to shukadia come on. Kurima pari agari arreta retto sorry this up. Shkuria mabalir kilorita shkuria natoria no to thank you. Just gonna expand the root. Shalaro ya mama kaya diania shoko. Shalere lele loria kilere going to the sacral. Shkidia como pokodo. Gishaka. Shilele tukuria kileria nanania nonoya roshia laro tiara mamaria. Aleria nekineria shogoruto dieti. Tieshikata mopo. Shikariaria retarea release. Shikuruto rotea nadania shenia to shototonio tinindo shikadia kadia da dedicadia shikadia kodia notagamami and the neo shkuruto de gamapi shukuturia kapapakia. Kilireta no to do no shkuruto ore rotia. Shari ari arieti shi no to shono do de brigaria tikidishkuduri all of it. Hidden and hidden. Seen and seen, I'm sorry. Ayala ko, lariata ashia tierga release. Karema mabaria to koro to kurio no koisho to yaki kilero to mambapakaria karia kashit expand. Shaleria tilia mampakuria kilia shikatiri kapaparia tikashia. It's gonna drop into the solar plexus, close off the things that don't need to be there. Kamakanikoria kumapakaki and the kinkaratko, kirakaro shikatiataka. You could no kapapaya, pull it out. Show me. Uriria kilero ku de caria rotoria mama malera ka oko adatishlataria shikaria reteria maparea rote can go into the heart. Shikiliano como mio shuto to yaki atkaria. Shikio tok shito correte ai. Shilero con noia nia rishio rotorio shu to yodonia mama ler kulere yania tanio to shati at kalere liticaneto shuru torio corio to lost heart. Pull that out. Thank you. Kuriono doria kapapakaleri shira. Kilo mapakia. Shalere ni aya no shia kai shikodo shikoto kia. Koi mapika tikta. Kushkaria ni ari koni obri di to dio to kapa vaya leria. Ori oko yashia ni shikodo do shedit kuri ana bariano yashia. Shkro to redi kriat career gedikshkaria koni udioka. Amama malero no ni anata di apapakari shit expand. Shitty caparia career. It's going to reach into the center pillar all the way down. Shuluria mabalero koreano shkediana kala lele no cornusho noni and kamama pakire caneo noni and pabayane atedi netukodori and caria dedicatori giria shigadia. Shukodoro no shenia taleri nishkodorotoria mapapakilero cariat dishia. Bring it down. Here comes your codes. Scelere noriari retisci retacarian cariurishkirin ganiuskudoro come pacalerea toriaro tikisia shkadian shilin in the dinita than the liberty nuta reata kirishkiria shata reata korea shato. There you go. You can come out of that when you're ready. Ah. So that was the root, the sacral, solar plexus, the heart, center pillar, and then the codes coming down, and then an expansion of all of that.
Amazing. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to tell everybody about any events you have coming up?
Yeah, so check out the website, kenlloydofficial.com. I usually do one event per month, but I have other things that are happening. So I have what's called distant healing. So I'm able to work on you without you having to connect to me, right? And it's really, really inexpensive. But that stuff's incredible. Every Monday I'll connect to everybody on the list and you'll actually feel it in your body without me being on the call. Wednesday nights I do groups, right? 8 p.m. Eastern. But these groups are 30 to 45 minutes of me focusing on certain topics, right? Whether it be physical stuff or whether I think the next one coming up, I don't know when this is going to air, but the next one coming up is the divine genome. And then the other one coming up after that, I believe, is the expanding the psychic senses. So every week I do a new theme, right? And then every month I do kind of a larger project. I would say just keep checking back with the websites. I do one-on-one sessions. They're fast. They're fast. You just show up with your list and we'll start knocking them out. 30 minutes with me will change your life. So
Yeah.
yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hmm